big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity. This is a special showing. I'm here at the headquarters of ITC Foods, and I'm joined by a man who I know very well, and he's known for his candid responses, and looking forward to this very, very interesting interview filled with candid thoughts and insights. I'm talking about none other than Hemant Malik, the CEO of ITC Foods. Thank you so much, Hemant. Really a pleasure coming down to your office. Such a beautiful new property, and ITC is always lovely to come and spend time with.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you very much for taking the time out and taking the effort to be with us in my office here. And it's a new year, so Happy New Year to you and to all your lovely viewers.
Great. News from ITC Foods, which according to Nielsen data now states that you are ITC Foods is the largest FMCG player in terms of being a food manufacturer in the country. So many congratulations. According to the data, you've surpassed Adani, Wilmar, you've surpassed Lever. So no mean feat for a company that's only about two decades old.
Yeah, I think Nielsen report and the coverage in the Economic Times newspaper has been a little bit of surprise to a lot of people that they suddenly find that ITC, which we are a startup. We started in this campus about 20 years back.
Sure.
We are one of the startups of Bangalore. I think the vision that ITC always talked about was to become India's #1 FMCG. I think that vision was very important in terms of how we look at the path. It is Nielsen always captures these top 10 FMCG companies, and we discovered that we are at the #1. But Sonali, it's a journey, right? And I think the opportunity in this country is huge. And the other day we were having a discussion around the same, and I said that it is still day one for us because it's India. The growth story will continue. And we are a startup, and we would like to continue to have the mindset of a startup.
Fair enough, but for a minute, if you acknowledge the compliment, for a minute, if you do, right, then could you take me through what have been the key triggers, your key strategies over the last 2 decades or so, considering that you started from zero to have reached this level? Because according to your last report, you've hit about 17,500 crores as ITC Foods, which is quite big, substantial. So what has been the key drivers for you for a brand that was not known in the FMCG space?
I think it's a very good question. It's a good time to actually reflect in terms of what has happened. One of the aspects that ITC brought in when we came into the foods business or into our FMCG business is how do we look at the overall institutional synergies? What is it that we are bringing that will be different, say, from some other companies? Because we here are going to be competing with legacy organizations,
Absolutely.
with brands which have been built in the Doordarshan era, brands which have been there for almost 100 years. But what ITC did bring to the table is, first of all, I think a great agri backend. Food is all about sourcing. Food is about sourcing right,
Sure.
sourcing at the right price, right quality.
Sure.
We had the hotels business with us, where we had our own chefs who would kind of work with our product development people in terms of what is it that we can craft. We had a great distribution system which was already existing with our legacy business, and we had to add features to it to look at from the FMCG perspective. I think the most important is that we have a very strong quality perspective in this organization. Like, quality is like most important. And therefore, I think any ITC product, if you take it to the market, the trade willingly accepts it because they know it is going to be a good quality product. So these are some of the synergies that we felt existed in institutional synergy, as we call it.
Absolutely.
After that, it came in terms of deciding which category you want to be in. And therefore, we looked at the staples part of it, because a lot of opportunity was there then, and it continues to be there, which is converging from unbranded to branded. And that's how the whole Ashirwad Atta business came in. And then we looked at adjacencies to Atta. And that what are the adjacencies to wheat, and we got into the biscuits business. Then we got into the noodles business, we got into the snacks business, and each of those businesses In 2003, when we launched biscuits, it was an 8,000 crore category.
Okay.
Right. In 20 years, it is a 50,000 plus crore category. Wow. So that's how the category size has grown, and therefore I think we took the right bet. Yeah. The snacks category we came in 2007. That was about 8,000 crore also in 2007, okay. And that is also touching 50,000 crore as a category size. So I think, to select the right categories and then to invest in product differentiation, product quality, and the standard whatever you need to do to build your marketplace.
Okay, so let's just talk about Ashirwad, which is I think now your star brand amongst your entire portfolio. When you talk about the Ashirwad story, yes, I think your number one, Ashirwad Atta, is a market leader, and because of its success, you've got into a lot of brand extensions, and you've got into pulses very deeply. You talked about this whole push and the impetus coming to the category from the whole movement from unbranded to branded. My question to you is that, has that been very significant? Has that growth from 8,000 to 50,000 crores come in from that movement only?
I think, 8,000 to 50,000, when I look at both snacks and biscuits, for the examples I was giving. And at that point of time, there was a very large unorganized market for both these categories. In fact, for snacks, I think still about 1/3 of the market would be unorganized.
For snacks?
For snacks. Biscuits is mostly now about 90-95% organized, right? Okay. But at that time, it was about just about 60% was organized. So there is a journey that was taking place. When I look at Ashirwad Atta, right, I think it is still about 85% is between wheat and loose atta. So that opportunity is
85% is still unorganized in atta.
Yeah, I'm saying people are buying loose atta, people are buying wheat, they grind it and then they do it, and therefore the packaged branded space is small. So therefore, when I say I'm the market leader with almost 40% plus, I'm a market leader in that 15%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, but my aspirations are to look at in terms of what is a value proposition we can create to give to our consumers that they believe it is worth. Because when it's unbranded and unpackaged, it's all about the price is the driver. The moment you want to give a little quality and packaging, of course the cost does go up. But I think we were discussing earlier about COVID, and one of the changes that we do see is post-COVID, the recognition for something which is in terms of safe. And therefore packaged, and of course when I'm saying packaged, I'm talking about a brand that you can trust.
Yeah, of course.
And therefore that is a shift that we are continuing to see.
So that shift of post-COVID is palpable. You're saying
absolutely right.
You can definitely see that.
I can see that
shift.
At least in the staples category.
In the staples category. So even when you talk about, let's say, vermicelli or rava or besan or your pulses, tuar dal, people are interested in buying packaged items.
Right. So I think I'll answer the question in two parts.
Yeah, sure.
Right. The first is atta itself.
Okay.
Right. Ashirwad atta, and it's a very large market where people, because in most of the north and parts of east and west, and now even in south, people do take that as their daily consumption. So there is one aspect in terms of converting unbranded to branded there, and that has been the story of Ashirwad since the time we came into being. Right? We never looked at us that we have to gain shares from other players, because it was all about how do you grow the category.
Yeah.
And therefore, the sourcing, our ability to, our Chopal came into big relevance for us, because today, ITC is the second largest buyer of wheat after FCI, and we buy it not to trade, we buy it because we want to give the right quality to our consumers. So that back end and the building of the brand, and therefore that has led us to where we are, and we will continue to work in terms of what are the insights required. As we've become larger, we are finding that there is nuance in, my Jaipur atta is different than my Delhi atta. The way, the choice of wheat that I use, the granulation I use, what I'm using in Patna is different than Calcutta. And because of large scale, we actually have 35 factories. So each factory can therefore customize requirement for that region.
Is that smart in terms of actually margins and profitability?
Oh, it is. Because if you are not going to get the consumer, you will not get a market. If you don't have the market, you won't have profitability, right? So I think it's about, and when you are converting an unbranded to branded, you need to be with what they like, what they're used to, and then do it. So that was the answer as far as the unbranded on this one. The second point you had asked was in terms of our adjacencies that we're looking at. We got into vermicelli and besan now and rava. And pulses. Pulses is not very large for us. We have right now we have focused only on the organic part of the pulses, because in pulses there is not much value addition that you can do.
Sure.
Then there are products like besan, for instance, and besan is my newest launch. And I'm very happy about the progress we have done in a very short time.
These are all pan-India, right?
These are okay. My besan launch happened in Delhi. We are in the entire north. We are in East. We have launched into Calcutta. South, I think the teams will be planning how we go into being, because we first want to make sure that our proposition, there has to be a reason why somebody should buy me.
I would say price competitiveness.
No. So in fact, it's quite fascinating. On besan, it took, my product development head a year and a half before he said my product is ready. And he said, what's there in besan?
Exactly.
You just take the chana and you grind it. So which chana? Where should we source the chana from? What are you going to use the besan for? You'll make pakoras. What do you want the pakora to be? You want the pakora to be crispy, right? Which besan, can besan make a difference to how long the pakora can remain crispy? And we find that it can, right? And therefore we tested, and today we buy our besan from Bikaner. So that was one. Now, how do you tell a consumer, how does a consumer evaluate, so when we went to the market, we made pakoras and said, this pakora is from Ashirvad, this is from some other brand, and see, this is more crispy. But the pakora taste is a complex taste. It's not just about the besan, it's about the masala, it's about anything else.
Sure.
Then when you actually look at in terms of one of the most important attributes as far as besan is concerned is when you are mixing, when you're making the batter out of the besan, there should not be any lump formation. Right. So that is a true test. Now, how do you make sure that, now I'm quite confidently I can say that if you pick up Ashirvad besan and if you put the water, it will not going to form lumps. Now, why is that? What causes it not to form lump? There is no literature which will tell you in terms of what it causes. And that's the research that my PD head was doing. And now he's come back and he's made a full detailed presentation to me saying why is it that his product will not form lumps. And that is going to be the winning differentiation. Price, promotion is there in the initial period, but after some time that, you need to get the margins. And therefore, that is what I think differentiates us from whatever other people may be doing or not doing. I can't comment on that, but at least for us, it is very important that what is the differentiation you're bringing in your product, because if you're a late entrant.
Do you think Indian consumers think so much? Are they so brand loyal in the commodity space?
I think the consumers are very smart.
No, but are they loyal?
So they will be loyal if they're not going to be loyal to a brand. They're going to be loyal to your experience. So if your product experience is good and it is consistent, because what is quality? To us, quality means consistency. That every time you buy this particular pack of atta or besan or whatever, or packet of biscuits, it should taste the same. Because that's why you're coming back to it. If it has changed, then then you are questioning, what is it about it that, that therefore they're not very conscious, because he or she has bought in onto that. So consumer is very smart, and which is good, because, it's just not about paying for the money part of it. Money is important. But then they will look at in terms of what else. Now, if the product experience is good, then they'll come back to you. Vermicelli. What was our story in vermicelli? Now, again, there are other brands already. You're a late entrant. So you again go back into the research. And it was interesting. And I think that's we are blessed that we have worked across so many categories. Right? And therefore, there are learnings that come from one category to the other.
So if I just look at, let's say, the performance of each of your, categories, at the moment, one can very well say that Ashirvad Atta, you've cracked it. In terms of within the organized section, you've cracked it. I would say noodles, despite the proposition, do you feel your growth has been satisfactory?
So I think nothing is satisfactory.
Don't give such a philosophical answer.
I'm saying, because everything, yeah, okay, fine.
I'm not talking about going to market share position of leadership.
I think if I were to look at household panel, Yippee Noodle has a 25 share.
Okay.
If I look at Nielsen, it's around 22 share,
okay.
right? We are the second largest noodle company. There's a large amount of local players also, which is another 20 share, and 20-25 share, and the balance would be with the largest.
Absolutely.
When we were getting into the market, there was only one player with a 90 share.
Yeah.
Right? We had 0 share. We came in when? 2011, right?
Yippee came in 2011.
Right? So now it is 23. So I think the team has done a pretty good job, but the market is also evolving. There are new varieties coming in. Korean noodles are becoming big. At the same time, it's one of the most penetrated products. If you look at number of households that buy, noodles is one of the most easy because it's still at 5 rupees, still at 10 rupees, still at So, but there is a lot more opportunity on increasing the penetration, right? So earlier it used to be mostly urban centric.
Yeah.
So there is a market which is there as far as the rural market is concerned. And recently we've, to answer the question in terms of why should somebody buy Yippee, right? So Yippee was a round noodle. Yippee it was non-stick, and it had vegetables in it. Very different from the offering in the market at that point of time, and therefore our pack was also orange.
Yeah.
But there is a large market of the yellow bucket because our masala is tasting, is a Yippee masala taste, because we wanted a consumer to stand for the Yippee masala, and I'll have a very interesting anecdote I'll share with you later. Recently now we have also gone into the yellow bucket.
Okay.
Right, which is called the Yippee Wow Masala, and the quantity of masala that we have put in is significantly, higher and better, and therefore it's much better taste profile than whether the local players or other players in the market. So therefore now we have to see how we are able to enter into that, the yellow bucket as we would call that.
Yeah. So when you say yellow bucket, you're doing color.
So the pack color will be more towards the yellow.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Right? So that is one, and therefore there is a certain masala taste that is expected from a yellow.
Is it?
Yeah. The Yippee masala has got a different taste. It's more orangey in color, and therefore you feel, and a little more spicier in taste.
I see.
In fact, the interesting, if I can continue.
Yes, please.
Is that this is part of my exports business, right? Because what Yippee is about the new generation. Right?
Sure.
So when the new generation, because to compete in this space, and we are here for the long term.
Yeah.
So we realize that to get when you're competing with a brand with very strong market standing and consumer love, right? So it's very difficult to reposition that, and therefore we looked at the new generation, right? And you'll be surprised that today, if you look at the colleges near Canada or the US, they ask for Yippee noodles. Because that generation is now gone to college, right? And they have a preference for Yippee. So that's how, my export business has started. Because otherwise people will say, "Nee, Yippee to koi janta hi nahi hai, nobody knows Yippee." Right? And now therefore our whole focus has been developing this next generation with Yippee. So that was the story on the side. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because although I do want to get into into all the categories that you've kind of delved seriously into, you've talked about your whole Ashirwad pulses adjacencies along with atta. You've talked about your noodles. There's a sudden interest in the market for spices, and and you've done so also with the Sunrise acquisition. We've seen Bacha being acquired by Dabur. So there's a heavy hotting up of the spices space suddenly. What has triggered that in the industry?
I think is
it also the movement from unbranded to branded?
Okay, that movement is certainly there. That movement is. I'm saying if you look at spices, you can broadly look at basic spices and blended spices. Right, and Bacha is mostly on blended spices, MDH. Everest covers both basic and blended. In fact, most companies which are playing in the category will have a basic portfolio and a blended portfolio. Yeah. Blended portfolio typically is so far in the market has got a higher margin, but very, very strongly customized to regional taste.
Okay.
Right, and therefore and the regional taste, varies every 100 kilometers in our country, right? So you will find large number of very strong brands in, I'm saying if you go to Bihar, there'll be 3 brands. This part of Bihar will be one brand, the other part will be another brand. So to become a national brand, right, and say I will cover everybody, people may have found that after some time it's not possible, right? You can look at a certain audience, you can be at modern trade and e-commerce, but when you're going, but masalas are used by everybody, right? It is a taste enhancer in any food that you're making, whether vegetarian or non-vegetarian. So, and therefore, I think the interest is coming in is because you're saying to build a brand versus buy a brand if it's available. Our experience with Sunrise, I think we were lucky that we got, because you keep on looking at many opportunities, everything doesn't fructify, and now that the interest is very high, there are not too many people in the market as well. So Sunrise was market leader, or is market leader in West Bengal. Very strong equity. I think in that region it's the #1 brand across because it's used by everybody on a daily basis. So I think in food, brands get built not so much through advertising, but much more through usage and association. And I think that's what Sunrise has built. And what does ITC bring onto the table? We said we will consolidate even further, and our shares have moved up. It was already 50-55. We have added a few more points. But we also looked at adjacent markets. So the first market that we looked at is Northeast. Okay. Right? And I think the team has done a pretty good job, but you had to customize products again, right? You can't simply say that the same product that is selling in Calcutta will get consumed. The garam masala is going to be different, right? Maybe the turmeric will be the same.
Yeah, chili powder will be the same.
Chili powder also may not be the same. Chili powder also, if you go to Andhra, right, they want higher heat. Yeah. If you go to North, they want higher color, right? The higher color chili is a little more expensive. So then you also create blends. And again, it goes back to sourcing story of ITC. We are one of the largest procurers of chili. We are one of the largest exporter of chilies at a bulk level. But we are able to then go to the farm and pick up what is required for each of our brands. And we have 2 brands. We've got, Ashirwad also has a range of basic spices.
Right.
And now we have recently launched, masala as well. I'm saying, like
chicken masala.
No, that's blended. It's like whole masala, whole seeds,
whole spices.
Whole spices, right? So we went with Sunrise into Northeast, and today we have almost 10 share. I think 10 share in 1.5 years. The team has done a phenomenal job. Now we're looking at Bihar, but when we're looking at Bihar again, it has taken us 2 years of product development. And now we have gone into launching our product into Bihar.
So you're clear about the journey for your spice portfolio, whether it be whole or it be blended or the regular ones, to look and go by market by market.
Yes, absolutely right.
Right? Yeah. And obviously you'll start with where you already have an advantage and then move forward.
Absolutely right.
So you're not in a hurry to win that game.
We are in a hurry to grow.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But the strategy is for Sunrise is adjacent states. You consolidate, you grow in Calcutta, you look at the other states. In fact, we follow a philosophy of what we call CCM, our marketing philosophy, which is cluster-centric marketing. Right, so each of those cluster, right? When
basically hyper-local.
Hyper-local, but hyper-local not only from in terms of advertising,
sure,
but it comes to from the product perspective as well.
Got it. But obviously this is, now for a minute you remove your ITC hat, as an industry I'm saying, obviously this is looking to be a very attractive space because so many players have suddenly shown interest in it. Is it a high margin game?
It is a high margin. It's a high margin business.
But only figure out later.
Particularly in blended. Blended business is higher margin compared to basic. But I think, so there is high interest but there's growth also. It's a 40% is still unbranded. There are states there are states where they don't use blended masala. So there the task is to convert consumers. In fact, when we went to Assam, and we didn't want to be seen to be that, it's a Bengali brand, because each person wants you have to be for their region. So we studied what are the various kind of, food that is unique to that particular place, and there is something, they make duck curry.
Okay.
Right, it's called Ha Sal Kumara. Ha stands for duck. Okay. And it's a very time consuming and it takes a lot of effort to make that particular masala. Right? So ITC, the Sunrise team, along with our PD, they've developed this thing. They go to the market, people see that, oh wow, it's available, right? And therefore you have a connect that happens. Okay, if they can make Ha Sal Kumara masala, that means they know, what we are doing. Now we're going to Bihar and we are working out on the Champaran meat. That's quite a popular dish which has come up in Bihar, but we're still wanting to get it right. So we'll be hopefully launching that.
Okay. If I look at your Dark Fantasy, your Sunfeast, your entire that biscuit portfolio, how would you say that you've performed vis-a-vis your competition?
So I think Dark Fantasy portfolio is one of the most premium end. So when you look at the...
so it does fall in your premium portfolio?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely does. It does from the biscuit industry perspective. So if you look at the cream portfolio, right, and cream portfolio, you can look at the mass cream, which will be sold at 5 rupees for a packet of 35 grams, 33 grams. Then you will have at the premium end is where we'll look at Dark Fantasy is about 5 rupees for 12.5 grams. And there we have about close to 60 share. But I think the task is to grow that category. I think Dark Fantasy role is not just about being the market leader. And we have grown the category. How do we continue to grow further? And in fact, we invest a lot in that brand. We have SRK as our brand ambassador. Yeah. He's done a phenomenal job for us. Sure. We've done a lot of very interesting, I don't know whether you caught that or not, but I think, anybody could be on an ad with SRK.
Of course, it won many awards.
So it won many awards. So that's a journey that, Dark Fantasy is working in terms of how do you increase penetration. In South, the penetration, or I'm saying the frequency of consumption versus North right now is a big gap. So, we're focusing a lot in those markets.
Okay. So that's your premium play, but along with Dark Fantasy, your other premium play would be your Fable chocolates.
So I think premium play has to happen in every category.
Of course.
Right, because there is a consumer who buys noodles, there should be a premium play there. There is a consumer for buying atta, there should be premium play there, and there is premium play. We have multigrain atta and select atta. But that will still,
even if you look at atta as a category, it'll be more mass premium. It won't be premium,
well,
right?
I think we are doing a D2C in Bangalore. It's called Namma Chakki. Namma means...
Namma is ours.
Ours. And here you can order your own customized atta. So in this we have 17 different varieties of atta that you can order. Atta and or mixes that you can order. So all that can get customized and order, and therefore people are willing to pay a premium for that. And everything will be done.
So this is a pilot now in Bangalore.
It's a pilot now in Bangalore. So it gets done in 48 hours the product gets delivered to you. Right? We make it for you. We in fact at least when we had launched it, the sticker also had your name. This made for Sonali. You can actually, there was a camera, we could see it getting ground if you're interested. That is more to get the assurance that it is being done,
How is that performing?
It's very interesting. It's good. I think the initial response, and there's a lot of word of mouth that is playing in this. So it takes its time, it's high effort, but I think in the long run, if you want playing in a particular category, you need to make sure that you're covering, you're giving a solve for every consumer. So that was my response to saying premium is not limited only to...
Got it. Got it.
From a category perspective, yes, Fable is the best chocolate in the world. In fact, last year we came up with a challenge of almost 1 crore rupees that if you could make the smoothest chocolate in the world, and there is a clear method of checking out whether it is smoothest or not. It's in terms of the micron of less than 10 microns or something of the chocolate particle, and that's what gives the smoothness. The smaller the micron, the smoother it is. So that's why I'm saying you kind of laughing whether it is the best or not, but we are confident that we've sourced the best. Why should Switzerland chocolate be the best?
Because it is
why?
Hemant.
No, why? It's branding.
I think it's also the quality.
No, I'm saying yes. So what is chocolate made of?
Cocoa beans.
So chocolate is made of 4 products, 4 items: cocoa mass, solid, cocoa butter, sugar, and milk. Right? Milk can be produced anywhere, right?
But quality of milk?
So milk is fine, I'm saying, but the quality is fundamentally, as you said, is on the cocoa. So is cocoa grown in Switzerland?
No.
Where is it grown?
Africa.
Exactly. So why should African cocoa behave differently in Switzerland and behave differently if it comes to India?
Maybe technique.
So it may be technique, exactly. So that's how, where does ITC's technique comes from? We come from our chocolatiers, from our hotels, right? And that's why you see a Febel boutique in every hotel, right? And if you actually were to have our ganache, and maybe later we'll do a tasting of that, right? It's absolutely, so melt in mouth experience. Mm-hmm. So we've invested significantly again on product, on creating that brand and the option that we have, right? So, but it's a long journey. It's not, chocolate is very, very fragile, right? It needs control of temperature control. And therefore, if I do mass distribution, I'm risking the consumer experience. So we have to build that.
So my question is on the ITC Foods premium play, right? And your playbook. So I can see Febel clearly as your premium play, Namma Chakki clearly as something that you're looking to as premium play. Dark fantasy in that category is premium. What else is the premiumization plan for ITC Foods? Would you say ITC MasterChef is a premium offering?
Oh, of course. When I look at the frozen foods
category, yeah.
Absolutely right. Because the penetration of frozen food is, even in e-commerce, is just 1%.
Oh, really?
Right. So that is the opportunity there is. And I think what has happened...
you mean it's just 1%?
Just 1%. Right. So
what are people doing? They are actually buying and frying themselves.
No, I'm talking about frozen. I'm talking about frozen food, which you also have to do a little finishing, no?
Yeah,
right?
little bit.
So you do that in your microwave, or you can do it on your tawa, or you can do it. Some people can fry it also. No, so they are buying. Maybe they're buying from a restaurant if they want the same food, or maybe they're taking the effort in cooking it themselves. So they may be cooking it themselves. One concern that people have on frozen is that does it have preservatives?
Of course.
Right. And I think that's and that's true for a lot of questions that people have around a lot of foods that is made. But I think frozen is no preservatives, because
no preservatives
because freezing is a technology which is keeping it absolutely safe, right? If you like you have frozen matar, right, peas, right? What do? You just take it out and you instant IQF, you freeze it. Here also we cook it. The moment we have cooked it, it goes into -18 degrees and continues to remain at -18 degrees. It's the freshest form of food.
So you are saying that ITC's frozen portfolio is preservative free?
It's absolutely preservative free, and it is actually fresher than any other product can be made, even at home if you make in the afternoon and eat in the evening, right? So, but I think it's a consumer education, right? And I think COVID allowed that to happen, because a lot of people looked at these solutions. And the second thing that has happened is the innovation that you can bring in, right? Because otherwise it can't just be about fries and a little bit of potato-based thing. So we have taken the route of going beyond potato. Recently we've launched our paneer pakoda, and again I think it's the you're smiling. That will be true for all our products. So yes, but it takes a lot of effort, because once you had it, the paneer should still be soft. Yeah. So the moisture should still be there to keep it soft. Right, but and then we launched onion rings. These are the 2 products that we have recently launched. We will have a lot of products around.
Now, when you say it's a premium offering, if you compare it to all the existing brands in the frozen foods category, ready to eat, ready to whatever, is it priced at around the same arena?
It is. So I think let's try and understand what does premium mean.
Exactly.
Right. So if I were to look at our country, and if I were to look at using, say, the Kantar data and other data sources, and everything is like pyramid, right? If you look at the top 4%, and I'm talking now FMCG, I'm not talking every other consumption, the spend on food by the top 4% is 2.4 times the average spend.
Okay.
On FMCG is 2.4 times, which comes about 18,000 rupees a month per household, right?
Now, on foods?
On food. On FMCG.
On FMCG,
And FMCG,
okay.
yeah, in food plus, but food is the largest part of FMCG now. It's almost 60-65%. So now, when that consumer is buying, right, this frozen item is going to that consumer because per cost is the entry cost is high.
Correct.
Right. If your monthly expenditure on FMCG is 0.5x, which will be the bottom pyramid, then the frozen is not going to be in their contention. It can't be, because there are many other things that they need to buy before they will look at frozen. So therefore, any product that is targeting that 1 plus, India 1 plus is, you can call it as premium, because that consumer is looking at something which is, there is a story, there is a differentiation.
And there is convenience.
And there's convenience, absolutely right. They're willing to pay for convenience. So I think that is, so all the products that you're targeting there would come under premium. It's not only category. I'm saying you can have chocolates at 5 rupees also.
Yeah.
Right, so then you won't call it chocolate as a category, as a premium category.
Sure,
right?
Sure. Okay, so got it. So and then you have, you have that, and then you've got into this whole millet game, which is not a premium. It's a mass game, or is it part of? Okay. What is it? I don't know.
I think millet is a very interesting story, and I think thanks to how the Prime Minister has driven it himself in terms of the whole, year of the millet, UN recognizing it year of millet, and ITC took that up on itself. We were probably, and I think the way we have gone about is better than anybody. The whole ITC mission millet.
Yeah.
So we said this is like a mission for the country, and the aspects that come into being is we have the sourcing through our agribusiness, right? We have the ability to expose millets through various different kind of food items through our hotels, as well as through our packaged food items.
Sure.
And at the same time, the government also came up with the PLI scheme for millet. So there were incentives if you can add 15% millet to anything that you do, right? Now millets actually are a little more expensive than wheat and rice. So what might have been so-called poor man's food is no longer necessarily a poor man's food. So we've taken that, a three-step process that we said that one was educate, right? Educate people about it, about millets, and how do you use millet? What is millet? What are the benefits, right? And I think there's a big amount of education that is required, and I think we've invested quite significantly on that. And we got coupled with with in fact your group, with Times Group, we did a lot of, because Times also felt that we need to increase awareness about this thing, and therefore we've run campaign across newspapers, about millets and how it can be used. The second aspect is in terms of encouraging people. Now, how do you encourage people? Through recipes, how to make, millets. I think G20 was a great story, because ITC Hotels was participating, and a lot of dishes were of millets. And then you empower people by being able to use it, right? And we have a whole range of products. We've got millets in our candies. We have a fantastic stick. We've got 15% millet in that. We've got snacks with millets. We've got biscuits with 100% millets that we have built, right? And there's, later you can take a picture. We've got all of them lying here in terms of our millet portfolio.
Yeah. But if I look at your entire portfolio, of all your products and categories, what is the story that you can tell me if I ask you to look at, the focus of the ITC Foods?
So I will paint it in two parts. Where is the opportunity that we are looking at? And then what is our strategy to look at?
Exactly, yeah.
So one opportunity we did talk about was unbranded to branded.
Correct.
Right. And we've done bit, and we can talk a little bit more. The second big opportunity is this whole what we call Bharat, and I think there are few states which were misbranded once upon a time, but if you look at the Madhya Pradesh, the parts of UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, right? There is a lot of infrastructure development taking place. These states are now showing the GDP, significant GDP growth, women literacy at a rise, right? All these are signs of where future consumption is going to happen, right? And therefore, how, and I'm saying this is an opportunity now, how do you work on that opportunity, right? Whether it's through distribution, and maybe we can talk about that. The third area is in terms of certain, you talked about frozen. Now frozen, you build a supply chain. What more can you add to it? Because frozen supply chain is different than selling, biscuits or something else. It requires its own effort. You have exports as a market. How do you build on that? So that's the third part of it. And the fourth area are the white spaces of future.
Which are what?
Which are, if I were to look at, there again, it becomes a lot more health driven, right? Protein, right? How do you look at somebody has gluten intolerance?
This is again, you're talking about the top of the pyramid.
Absolutely.
Right?
So I'm saying I'm covering every part of the pyramid.
Sure.
So therefore now, if these are the 4 opportunity areas, what are the strategies that we look at? So we look at, one is in terms of you have a category and you look at what are the value additions you can do. So there's a whole, what technology to use, how do you go about doing that? So that's one part of it. Then you look at brand adjacencies, right? And we discuss a lot in terms of, the basins and the vermicelli, and that's another area that you grow, and that allows. So when you do that, you are addressing the unbranded to branded part of the penetration part of it. When you look at
Namachakki, you're doing premium.
Then you look at premium part of it. So that's the white space that we're talking about. Right? Then you look at the, what I talk about culture-centric marketing, right? So different. In fact, I said cluster. It was what I meant was culture.
Okay.
Right? So culture-centric marketing. So which is the, depending upon the local culture, and then comes the product and innovation in terms of what are the innovative products? If there is a need, how are you going to be solving that?
But my next question comes to the fact that, ITC is so focused on, the Indian consumption story. Is it by any chance looking at adjacent markets apart from India, which could also be an equally good story?
Yeah, so I think we have a Surya Nepal in Nepal.
Yes,
is there, and
yes.
in fact I was speaking to the head just the other day, and they've launched the manufacturing dark fantasy in that market, and very good response, and and he's priced it even more premium than it is in India, because he feels there's an opportunity there. So they're taking some of the other, again we are supporting them through back-end, through technology. As far as the other big large market is Bangladesh. So we are looking in terms of how do we create our strategy for that particular market.
Not just export, but actual manufacturing.
Yeah, so I'm saying, so there are options, you look at setting up a business there, because the duties are very high. So you cannot export from India. It's 55% duty from anything which gets exported from India. So either you have to do some tie-up with somebody, or so I think that's part of our long-term plan. We have to see how it.
So Hemant, if I had to ask you, what are your biggest constraints and challenges while you're developing, the ITC Foods business? We've discussed your synergies, your opportunities, your strengths. But where do lie the challenges?
So I think to me, getting the right insight, right, is because, as we're saying there, if it doesn't work, you have to go back to drawing board. That means you didn't invest sufficiently in getting the right insight. The teams need to be much more, closer to the consumers. We've done well. We believe consumer insight is our strength. But I think, just because we think it is a strength, it doesn't remain your strength. You have to constantly work on that. So that is one big area of focus that we should continue to have. How do you maintain the quality that you're promising? Because the moment we have more than 130 different units where products get manufactured. How do you make sure that the product is the same?
Today you have 130 products.
130 locations where products are getting manufactured.
And how many products?
I think about 500 odd.
500 products.
Yeah, I think SKUs.
Across how many categories? Broadly,
it's question in terms of how you define the category, but maybe we'll say about 20 odd categories, right? Because each of them have a separate supply chain.
Yeah.
Right. So where you source, where you make, where you onto it. So I think to get that, because people trust ITC, and therefore to live up to that trust is very important. A very important part of it is in terms of how do you make sure that the margins, right? And we talked about it earlier. Our chairman has talked about 80 to 100 basis point improvement year on year.
Correct.
Now for that requires very smart. You need business growth. You need to invest behind business growth. At the same time, you need to get your cost focus. So efficiencies come into play, and that's the third big. And I think the most important is that we need to, we are a late entrant. We are, okay, now we may look 20 years in the business, but I think the opportunities, how are we going to grow better and more profitably? I think that.
If I look at ITC as a whole, right, it is clear that if you keep the traditional business aside, FMCG will be given the most thrust, going forward. If I ask you as the ITC Foods CEO, from a 5-year timeline, which category is going to show you the most potential to be the superstar? What would it be?
So you've asked many things in this question, right? The first was in terms of focus of the organization.
Yeah.
We have always worked on this concept of distributed leadership, right? So therefore, each leader gets the resources and the focus that he or she requires. So it's not fair for us to say, "Acha, we will focus on this." That means we will defocus on something else.
No.
Right. So therefore, each of ITC, we are a diversified conglomerate, and each of them have their own agenda, their own marketplace, their own industry construct, and investments, and we have never been shy of investing in the right things. Coming to FMCG, yes, FMCG from a business potential perspective, of the various businesses that ITC is into, is the largest, right? In terms of the FMCG package itself is 5.5 lakh crores. So that is the size that is there. Product that we are playing right now is maybe around 2 lakh crore as a potential. So therefore, if I were to look at 10 years from now, then these businesses have to grow more because there is the potential is there. Coming specifically in terms of from foods perspective, if it is atta, what is it tomorrow? We used to talk about brands which are more than 1,000 crore, and trust me, there are not too many food brands in India which are more than 1,000 crores, right? Okay. So we have Ashirwad, we have Sunfeast, we have Yippee, we have Bingo, right? And now we have Sunrise also, that is becoming more than 1,000 crore. So I think each of them have to grow. I can't play playing favorites with anybody. The opportunity is there. There are challenges for everybody. It's not easy. You have to compete. You have to compete for consumers' space in their mind. You have to compete to get the develop the right value proposition. So that's a journey.
On that note, thank you, Hemant, for sitting through and answering all the myriad of questions across all your categories. There are just so many to cover, but thank you so much, and many congratulations once again on ITC's performance, and here's only wishing you more luck and more success as you go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you very much.